So I went to an event the other day. This guy named Jordan Peterson. He's a thought leader. And I was at this event. It's 5,500 people, supposedly, at this YouTube theater. And we was actually going to pack out that theater last year. We decided to do something different instead, which I may still use. But I was impressed by the fact that the title of his conversation was, or his tour was, "We Who Wrestle with God." And I was impressed by the fact that all of these people that showed up on a Thursday night, packed out, 5,000 people, to hear this man talk about faith, belief, God, consciousness, right, spirit. And when we think about that a lot of times, and having these conversations, which we don't have enough at all, I believe. We don't have enough of these conversations at all. Like, let's be honest. Enough of these conversations about like consciousness and God and spirit, because we overcompensate our lack of values with arts, right? But I want to start curating these type of conversations, and when I say we, I'm talking about society, by the way, and I'm talking about black people and brown people as well, because people will pack out a stadium for a comedian, for an artist, right? Singer, rapper, whatever it may be. But to have a conversation about God and to have 5,000 people show up, that to me is the dream. To talk about, spiritual competency, to talk about belief, talk about faith or Christ consciousness. That to me is the dream, right? And I had named my tour Highest Level Tour, and we talked about all those things, right? But we don't have a culture that's built around it to where people were like, I will pay $50 to $100 to like go and be around other people, right, of different creed, class, or whatever. And the thing that draws us together is our belief, right, in our higher self or our higher power. And it was beautiful, even though, I'm gonna be honest, his conversation for me was a bit monotone. But the idea that people were sitting there, it was no performative, it was silent, it was even bland, right? But they were there so attentive, you could hear a pin drop, it was so quiet. And it was just a man going through his thoughts and his ideas around what is consciousness, right? What are our thoughts? How do we wrestle with our belief and our faith and our aims in life and our purpose in life? And I was like, that is the culture that is worth building, right? There's kings of the toxic culture already. I don't want their place. They can have that. But when it comes to building out a culture of consciousness, right, where we get to sit around, because I have this idea for what I'm about to do next in a new iteration, a high level, like, let's have these discussions and not debates. I don't want to have debates. Discussions and builds. So there has to be a format to where we pick a subject, right? And once we pick that subject, then we dive deep into it, right? And towards the end of that, we come out with a higher understanding of it, and we can use that as we go about in the world. So somebody said, I'm not a God. That's false. And you know I'm a God. That's why you're here. You forgot who you were. If I sit down and people want to get into Christ consciousness, I can sit down if you give me enough time to dive deep into things. I can show you that you're a God. The great I am, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you're Buddhist, whatever you are, I can show you you're a God. Oh, no, I'm not your God. No, I'm not your God. I don't want to be your God. No, that's not what I'm saying. But you are a God too, and you got to know yourself. And the greatest things my parents taught me was that I am a God and that we are gods, right? And it's one of the most powerful and empowering things that you can give to a society of people. And if we dive deep into what our minds are, right? How do we even arrive to the point to where we can say what things are and what they aren't? You have to be God to do that. And we are so powerful that in the midst of our humility, right, we try to give our power away because most people don't feel like they are a good steward of self. But when you know that you are a God, right, then you also look at the power you have to create your own reality. And you can't tell me that there aren't many, and everybody here has created your own reality. Now, there are forces as a God that you have to now deal with, because God is force and power in one way to put it. So you have force and you have power, and there's different levels to power. There is the human power, the conscious power, the spiritual, the financial, the physical, right? There's many different planes and ways that we can go about power. And force, right, is how we apply and the pressure that we apply towards that power. So we don't all have the same level of godhood. And one thing that I like that we was talking about was knowledge. When you come up with an idea, where does it come from? When you tell yourself, you sit there and say, I don't know something, and then you sit there and you pontificate, you think. And what are you doing as you thinking? Can anybody tell me what's happening? Are you sitting in a room by yourself? No TVs, no screens, no nothing. Just imagine a white room and it's just you. And you tell yourself, I don't know something. And then all of a sudden you go through this process, conjuring up these thoughts. The electricity in your brain waves a certain way. And all of a sudden you have a realization. But what is that happening in the midst of you going from I don't know to you're sitting there and you're having this realization? Nothing changed in the room. Nothing changed about you physically, right? So it must be that the answer was already within you, right? It was the spirit in which you asked to bring forth that which exists within yourself, with it a showcasing, right? And the problem is that a lot of us think about our brains and we don't think about our minds. We think about ourselves as our brains, and our brains is just, the brain is just the technology in which the mind is being utilized, right? It's like saying, you know, you build a computer, but the computer is not the internet, you know, but this is the way you're able to use the internet. Right? And our minds is like this internet that's then connected to what? The ether, connected to the universe, connected to the great divine, connected to the all source of all things. And in the first way of being able to use your mind is going within and conjuring up an answer that already lies within. But first you have to be human enough, right, to question. See, there's a person by the name of Mr. Bigot. He said word salad is amazing. This is exactly what I mean about, like, now this is a distracting person, but I wanted to use this, right? Because as I was sitting there and I'm listening to Jordan Peterson, and I'm like, the difference that we don't have an appreciation of is philosophy. We don't have an appreciation of the art of thinking, to where by sitting there watching and listening to somebody thought process go from zero, right? Zero, you know, from the first conjuring of a thought, putting it into motion, and then coming up with an answer. Then as we watch that, we can duplicate that same thing. But you go back to one of the greatest philosophers of all time that people give credit to, Socrates. He didn't have no degrees. What did Socrates do? All he did was talk and think. All he did was talk, think, and he didn't even write. He didn't even write his own things down. He had somebody else write for him. All he spent time was thinking and talking. And some of the most contributing people on this planet Earth, are not people that built things per se. It was people that just talked and people that writ things. And so we don't really look at the scale of our power by just talking and writing. Talking and writing is an exercise of God's. See, there's no such thing as talking too much. No. It's actually a fallacy. Not when you're saying the right things. Not when your mind is thinking. Because I promise you, if you sit there and you listen to a genius, there's no way that you will be mad that they're talking too much. It's when you're not saying things or when the person that's listening is not comprehending. Because a billionaire can sit there and give you a high level of how his business functions. And you will probably tune out because you're not at the level to receive and or utilize the value in which they're giving. So it might as well be another language. And no matter how long they talk, you won't be able to utilize it because you're not at that level to receive it. So it's not about whether somebody is talking too much. Most of the time, it's about whether you are in, right, that space to receive and use it. Is it useful to you? Right? Do you even have the capability of understanding that which you are receiving? Because nobody forces anybody to, I don't know anybody that's sitting there and say, hey, sit there in this chair and just, I'm going to force you to listen to me ramble on. That doesn't happen. So complaining lets you know there's something wrong with you, not the person that's speaking or doing the thing that you dislike. And see, even as I'm going through this thought, I want to have these conversations. So if you're sitting there and you come across something you don't like and you decide to engage in it, that is not a representation of that thing that you think you dislike. It's a representation of you engaging in the wrong things and giving the wrong things attention. And with social media, we do it so much that it becomes a normal behavior because we have the ability to tune in and to tune out. And when you learn how to tune into the things that are in connection with your higher power, your higher self, right? You see growth in your life. You see achievement in your life. And when you don't have the ability to tune out things, right, that are not in connection with the things that you need, then that's when you start to detract and it starts to distract you and it takes away from the traction that you could be gaining as growth in your life towards your higher self and your higher purpose and needs and things that you want. So this idea that when you go on somebody's page and you see negative comments, you see negative things, what is these people trying to do? They're trying to repel things that they're attracted to. Oh, I hate this. Do you? Then why do you give so much to it? I never met a man that I hate so much and then I walk up to and willingly give him charity. But charity is not just money. Charity is I'm going to give you consideration. Where does that consideration comes from? Attention, consciousness. I will give you my energy, and we are all energy, and so you're giving somebody your life in that moment, which means you're sacrificing the time you could be spending on things that you are in agreement with, in alignment with, and instead you're giving charity to things that you hate. That's why I say your fan club consists of two sides. Some people that love you and people that hate you. I don't know, somebody lied if you thought that your fan club was only consistent of positive people. There's people that follow me that I'll go look on the page and they'll be talking some shit. And then I'll look at them and they're following me. I'm like, this don't make sense. The nigga just said I was fake, but he's following me. So then I had to break it down. Oh, there's people, right? Your fan club are people that love you and people that hate you. That's it. And they don't know enough about themselves to follow the right things that they're in line with. So this is why I feel like we need to have more conversations about getting in closer proximity to the God within ourselves, right? We need to have higher conversations, right, about this battle that we have internally within and how we can get into the character, right? If you're going to look at the Bible, you're going to look at these different things. The Bible was supposed to not be about events of the past, but about prophecy of the present. Right? You look at these characters represent entities that you can become. If you identify with the character of Jesus or Yahweh, right, then how about you then become a Jesus while living? And if you were to then become the Jesus character to where you identify with this entity, right, then how would you go about dealing in the world? You would then cause a disruption, right, to Caesar. You would cause a disruption to society. And we get to identify ourselves with these different characters, right, to say this is who I want to be, this is what I want to be a part of. So sometimes we have messianic characters. I see myself as this, therefore I will be that in the world. Then you have other people that are the villain characters. My character is some people are the Judas. Oh, well, if that's the Messiah, then I'm the Judas. Right? Then you have some people that, they are the ones that come to try to tear you down. They may be Caesar, they may be whatever it may be, but in each person, you can see these characters that emanate within them, and they have different spirits in which they go by in the way that they go about doing things. So I have to ask myself, what is my spirit that I'm in as I go about doing things? Because you can be doing the right thing in the wrong spirit. And that spirit that you conjuring can be a demon spirit. And that demon spirit is not some horned devil that you're looking for, right? It is when you are not in proper alignment with your higher self. So that what you breathing life into is not correct. And these are the conversations that, like, when we do High Level Club, we finally open, we have these conversations over open fire. Because that fire represents that alchemical process, right? We bonfire, have these conversations, and we have these builds, and we tribalize these things. And these are the conversations that we need to have more of versus, I hate that thing, I'm going to give it all my attention. That's when you are attached to an entity that then controls you, and then that's your demon. So you may watch a news piece, and the news piece is feeding a part of you that you hate. Oh, I hate this thing. And so you get into this spirit of hate, and all of a sudden your nose starts snarling up, and trauma starts being built up, and that's the spirit that's being fed. So you have to be careful to where you allow society to feed different spirits within you. Because we all got two wolves, and the one we feed the most, that becomes the strongest. So which spirit is society trying to feed you? The one that allows you to propel higher into yourself, to higher into the God self? Or does it want you to be a little demon out here? And let's be honest. Most of the time, a majority of the time, it is only trying to get you to your lower level because you're easier to control. If I turn you into a little demon, you don't think a demon is easier to control than a god? You don't control a god. A god has control over themselves. That is a full man and a full woman. But when you are a demon, I can control that spirit. When you don't know what you believe, when you don't know what you know, when you don't know who you are, I can fill in that gap. That means that you don't know what you're doing things for. You don't have your vision correct. You don't have your aims. You don't know what you're a part of. All the society, if you go walk around, one of the most common phrases that people talk about is being lost without purpose. A man that knows himself can never be lost without purpose, because then your life becomes the study of self, and that information, that insight becomes action that you utilize to then go about and live based on what you know. I don't want to hear what you believe or what do you know about yourself. That comes from certainty. So we break down, what are my gifts? What are my skills? What are my talents? Once you can identify that, but some things you can identify till you go out in the world. A lion by himself does not know he's a lion. But when he sees other lions, he learns how to lion better. Right? If you're a lion that's born in a cage inside a zoo, you don't know you really a lion. You're around zebras, you're around elephants, you're around all these different things. You know you're different. Right? You may think you're just a different color, but you're the same animal as these other things. You don't know you're supposed to be the king. Matter of fact, you have been dociled. You have been turned into a plaything. You have been now utilized for amusement of this master of this realm. You don't know there's a whole world that if you were where you were supposed to be, you would be king. And the longer you stay away from that world, right, the weaker you become to where you will now not have the ability to thrive. If they put that same lion that's been in that cage his whole life, you throw it in the wild, man, that lion don't know how to hunt no more. That lion has been tamed and turned into something other than his nature, and now that lion becomes dependent. He's looking for master to feed me, and he don't even know his own capabilities to go out there and hunt. He don't know he got this sense of smell he can use. He don't know that his eyes and how he can target things and how he can move in stealth and how he can go out there and how he can start a whole entire pride and how he can move throughout this damn jungle. Because he was born in a place where he lost his identity, don't know himself, been in that jungle, he's a god. Put him in the right circumstances, he's a god. To be feared, to be worshipped, to be seen, to be known. And everything else bows down to it. And if you show those other animals that's in the jungle a lion, they say, whoa, I don't mess with lions. But then if they watch that lion in a cage, they say, wait a minute. That lion don't know he a lion. Oh, I ain't afraid of that one. That lion don't know he a lion. That lion over here, he trying to be cool with us. That lion don't know he supposed to rule us. That lion don't know he's supposed to, when we go to the water fountain, everybody else supposed to move when he comes. But if that lion knew itself and he grew up in an environment that stimulated that knowledge of self, he would be king. And everybody else would have to treat him like that. But nobody treats a man or a woman like a king that don't know that they royal and regal. They don't know who you are. So when you go about this world and you don't know who you are, the rest of the world gonna treat you like that. The rest of the world gonna treat you like that. You ain't gonna be treated no more than what you know about yourself. You will never be treated more than what you know about yourself. Not what you believe, what you know about yourself. And these are the high-level conversations. This is why I started high-level conversations. This is why we started High-Level Club. You will never be treated more than what you know about yourself. So when I say, are we gods? It ain't something I believe, it's something that I know. And that's why the world and reality and the universe, see, the universe, it's the universe that I want to respond. It's the universe that has to respond. It's reality that has to respond a certain way to what I know. It has to respond. If I believe things are going to open up, if I know who I am, then I believe that I can go from, when I was sleeping on the goddamn mattress, you know what I'm saying, blow up bed, to saying, man, I could be the greatest star leader in the world because I know I'm a god. And no matter who puts themselves in front of me, no matter who laughs at it, just because they don't know it yet, don't mean that I'm not it. Because remember, if you grew up in a cage and there's other animals in there, they don't know who they are either. So you telling them like, man, y'all don't know. I'm really a king. I'm really a god. And they like, ha, nigga, please. But they don't know because they've never dealt with you in your proper environment. And you don't have the skill sets to show them. Yeah, maybe you can roar a little bit. You can show your teeth. They know it's something maybe dangerous about you. But it's to their best advantage to keep you away from that. So they're not going to reinforce this and start acting as if they know, because they also haven't been checked and put in a position to why they have to respond a certain way. So that's why you got to be around other people. You got to be around people who know the difference. People around who ain't going to play with you because they know who you are. And so it first starts in a frequency in what called is the domain of the mind. So when it starts in the domain of the mind, right? Then all of that which you have on the inside of you, that which matriculates inside the mind, that which conjures in here, becomes that out here.